Hello everybody, I'm Antonitsky, and today I'll talk about how I made this creature inside of 3D code. I'll just share some tips and tricks. I won't go through I'll start with a little mesh and I'll show how I made some of these ropes. There's a cool technique and it's really easy. It allows you to do it in 3D code, and I'll jump into Maya and I'll show how I did a little simulation with this, like some bits of mud on top. There are a couple of really important points to do it effectively, because simulations are always quite a bit of a pain. And well, let's get started. This is inside of the 3D code. So you can see the mesh itself is about 1 million polygons. I didn't spend too much time detailing it. I was pretty happy with the result already, but obviously I could go and spend quite a few hours just going and adding extra mud, because I have a photo pack for that and it's really useful. I mentioned it in the previous video, but I'll share the link later. Oh, actually, when I started doing it, I did this series of sketches here, and well, like a few years ago, so I had a little job where I actually had to paint some effects, and for that job, I bought a book that was a really cool book called Elemental Magic. I have two of them in my home library, first and second. So this book, the author there, he's been drawing FX for like 30 years now, and if you see the movie like like cartoon, Heavy Metal, all the blood and gore was done by this guy. He's really cool, and there are some talk. If you search him by name, there will be talks on YouTube. So check him out. He's got some really cool talks there, and it really shows and explains you how to draw this stuff, and because this knowledge of how to draw it will directly translate it into 3D sculpt, so it's really connected in between. Well, let's go and start a new mesh, a new sculpt, and I'll do something super quickly, super rough. Again, using the hotkeys here, if you see my previous videos. So I'll do something really abstract. When I was doing that guy, I did think about the shape and overall animation, how the pose is being animated to get a really powerful thrust to the character. To make a much more interesting silhouette. This was the same way I've started that previous character. Actually, I think I'm a bit high in my border count. I'll just drop it down to this. Okay, so we got some slimy stuff. And this is what I need. So then I'll go into the toothpaste. And toothpaste allows you to draw these ropes of stuff. It's really cool. You kind of have to really position a camera to do it right. If you do it like this, it will snap to the mesh itself, so you have to go and give it some space and outside. And let's do it on the here. I've got a bit of jittering going on. It's because of the brush options on my right. So I'll just clean all those options and I'll try to see, yeah, do less jitter, and trying to see if I could make it bit curvy. Right now it's almost straight right now, and I don't like it that much. I'll see if I can get it. okay, it means that so you cannot really control the curvature of this thing that much. So other way of doing it is using tubes. Uh, well, a snake tool, not tubes, a snake tool, which you could say like, oh, why shouldn't I use it all the time? Well, yes and no. I think toothpaste gives you this really really strong curve that's quite powerful and stretched, while the snake tool gives you a bit more control, but not perfect. It's kind of starts to jiggle a bit. But obviously there are a few ways of doing it, and you can always just draw a curve, right, and make it like that. But again, I'm looking for the fastest way of doing it, right? So this is 1 second, no thinking involved. So the whole sculpt here probably took me about an hour. So I'm always looking for the easiest techniques to use. Also, another tool I used was a smudge brush. This guy has already been converted to polygons. I'll convert it back. It can give you this organic muddiness. It can also destroy your form and destroy the movement that you've put into the model, into the sculpt. So it's kind of be careful not to overuse it too much, because then it becomes way too blobby and ill-defined. Another thing I used was a snake clay tool in the surface mode. So you can push your stuff around. Like you can see this slide that I have on the right arm goes down here. So a neat little tool. Well, essentially I just would go and try all of those clay tools and see what they do. And that one was doing something fairly interesting that I decided to implement. This is one of the early sculpts I found. All the toothpaste used all around. And this was the sculpt before I dropped it into Maya to get a simulation running. So I mean, it's already pretty good in terms of showing like a muddy, blobby person rising from the mud and trying to attack. But I wanted to see if I could get some more interesting effects using water simulation. Is Bifrost Maya. Okay, it turned out that Maya crashed before, and I might not have autosave for that guy, so I've opened another kind of imprint, I call them, that I use for my tests. It's a bit less impressive than the mud walking creature. But anyway, here you can see my setup. I've got a layer of mesh on top, which I'll convert it to liquid, and I'll go over that in a second. And then later I'll just run a simulation, you press run, and it will go down, and then I would apply the mesh to it and export it back to 3D code. But let's go back to 3D code for now. And one really important thing is that you want to get a mesh that's not intersecting with the original sculpt, because then your simulation will not run. I had to fight with that issue for a little bit. So I don't want to create an overall thickness for the whole mesh, because then if you run the simulation, it might not look that great. So I wanted this spottiness like I have it in like with my sculpt. And to get that spottiness, you go into vox layer in the voxel mode, and I go into the top view and I do a rectangular selection, and you get this top view thing that you can then export. Thickness can be pretty low. It depends, of course, on the scale of the model. I put it at 6, and actually it was a bit too high. And you'll hit apply and wait for it to appear. Okay, we have it here. And this right now is 3.5 million triangles, so I decimated down to like 30,000, so Maya wouldn't have much of an issue working with it. Same with the original sculpt, I would decimate it down to 30k and drop it back to Maya. Okay, so we just do play and a decimated export to Maya, and I had to scale it down quite a bit. You can see the scale is about 16 times smaller than the original model. This is scaled down to 0.06. This is because the particles are really sensitive to scale, and if it's way too big, then it pretty much will freeze out your Maya, and you won't be able to do any simulation whatsoever. So I actually have this cube, the default Maya cube for reference. It's 1 by 1 centimeter, bit too small, so I want something about 15-20 times bigger than this cube for a good simulation. And then what I do is I just hit the mesh that I want to be my container for the liquid, and go into the FX, go into Bifrost, liquid, and it will create my liquid thing. Here I no longer really need this mesh. I'll just Control H hide it. And you can see, so if you run it right now, it won't have anything to collide, it will just go through. So what I want to do is I want to select this and then select the container and create a collider. It's thinking. So I've got one collider, and I'll hit this, then hit that, the container, and I hit collider again. Okay, so now if I run, it will start the simulation. You can see it's slowly starting to move, and I don't like dealing with simulations. They're still not at that level where they are really easy to deal with. To get a really awesome result, you have to do a lot of tests. You have to cache it you have to simulate it for nights. You have huge particle files that are really cumbersome to work with. But anyway, so I have this stuff going down, and you can see it's starting to slide off the mesh and down on the floor. And I'll select the container and go Control A, go into attributes. So I can turn on the remesh Bifrost meshing, hit enable, and you can see we've got it there. I'll just apply a different material, Blend 1, to see it better, and you can just select it and export it already. Right, obviously it's way too blobby, and I want to make surface radius smaller. Something like this, right? I can already do a job to add some randomness to a model, and you export this layer into 3D code. You just merge the voxel layers together, and then you use the fill brush and smudge it all around. One thing I haven't mentioned is I forgot to press the enable cache button on this guy. Have to do it every time. And I don't remember. Oh yeah, this in Bifrost liquid container. Just press on all the steps and find it. Press the scratch cache. It will later it will store your simulation, so we'll be able to go back and forward. Okay, so the density there was a little bit low for this guy, so you might want to go and increase the density, maybe, and I don't remember where I had to increase it in one of those tabs. Oh yeah, master voxel size. Well, once again I did a mistake. I decided that I'll put it at 2 to like double the size of the particles. But if you put it at 2, you don't double it. You like quadruple it or make it 8 times bigger. So it's pretty wise just to make it like 4, and then you'll get a way more particles there already. Beware that it goes pretty fast in size, and like you get a lot of triangles there. One of the things is it obviously has been scaled down, so if you input it in 3D code, it won't be the right scale as your 3D code model. So what I did is like, because I have this scale parameter right here, I just opened the calculator and I divided 1000 by 61. So that's my value, 16.39. Okay, it's 16.4 pretty much. And well, what I want to do is I want to scale it up by 16.4. I don't want to do it right now because it's connected to my well, if I just duplicate the mesh, it will be alright. Okay. Right, okay, so I have the mesh now. It's will be in the exact size as the 3D code mesh, and I can just put it in together pretty easily. Yeah, that's pretty much it for my workflow here. I used I didn't experiment that much with like viscosity of the parameter, because right now the viscosity of this thing is actually is is at the level of being water, not like mud. And well, the thing is that to get the right viscosity parameter, you have to do a lot of tests. Some of them will be really intense, like overnight tests, simulation running for hours, and it's obviously not something I want to do for some abstract sculpture that I just want to push out in a couple hours. And I've done a couple tests, like smaller tests, and I just could see that it will take me a lot of time. So I decided like, oh, okay, I'll better just run a water sim and try to make it look like mud, especially with the right shader. It will look like mud because it's not transparent. And then I'll just you know sculpt it on top, because it's not an animation, it's just a still. And there you go. So I've actually combined a few frames of simulation, like frame 60, frame 50, combine them all together in 3 layers. Then I've got some pretty cool stuff going on right here. You can see this particular splash is making it look like a skull, right? So I really like that. Uh, some stuff there that I like, this blobbiness going on right here, which I would have been troubling for myself to create it. Some dripping on the bum, some dripping on the back. It's pretty cool. So I did delete a lot of it, like maybe 80% of the simulation. Just deleted it and cut it out. Didn't use. And for those who actually finished, who made it all to the minute 19, I'll show you the thing I've forgotten to show. I also used a clay in surface mode using the lasso tool. It can help you to create all these little muddy droplets that are really cool. That are really, like, I can see them on real mud on the photos. So I've done a few of those. At one point I did add too much detail to this character, that I started to go and started to smooth out these big areas on the back, on the leg, a little bit here, just so there will be some areas of rest for the eye. And It's quite important not to over detail it too much all over. Like you kind of, I always still have a problem with it myself, but really like the so often the less is more. So quite often I would actually go and destroy the detail that I've put some time into creation of it, because if you have less detail in some certain areas, it will look better than you have too much of it. Okay, so yeah, these are my kind of tips and tricks for creating of this guy, and so that was obviously was a super quick Bifrost introduction. You can Google more stuff on Bifrost if you want to. And I hope, I don't know, you find another way of using these techniques in some other project, not necessarily a mud creature, but I don't know what that could be. But it obviously could be some slimy alien going, slimy monster, whatever. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and see you next time.